I sat in my home, waiting for the other shoe to drop. My wife of 9 years told me 6 weeks ago that her girlfriends had invited her to go out with them. It started with one night but quickly increased to 3 or 4 nights a month. Then she started coming home, reeking of alcohol, and her clothes and hair were disheveled. She always tried to be intimate on those occasions. At first I was enjoying our time together, but then I felt my suspicions growing. The first time I refused to be intimate with her, citing a migraine, she began giving me the cold shoulder. The next time she came home, she was so intoxicated that she fell on the floor 3 steps into the living room and passed out. I picked her up, got her to our bedroom, and helped her get ready for bed. Then she mumbled, "Okay, Frank, one more time. My name is James." I looked at her, then at my pillow. As my anger hit new heights, in my mind, I saw myself doing something terrible and solving the problem. I'd go to jail. That thought stayed my hands. I didn't want to go there. 2 weeks later, she was out again when my phone went off. It was my friend Tim from work. "James, I don't mean to interfere in your relationship with your wife, but I took my date to that new club that opened up. Your wife is here, and the way she's acting makes me think you two are in trouble." Thinking she was intoxicated again, I replied, "Yeah, she went out with her friends again tonight." I shook my head, already knowing how it would go when she came home. I've never seen a girl's night out look quite like this. "Let me send you a few pictures," Tim said in a cautious voice. "Give me a minute, then I'll send them to you." That little devil took an express elevator up my spine. I had a feeling it was going to be bad news, so I poured myself some cognac and then I took the bottle with me back into the living room. I put the bottle on the coffee table and had just sat down when my phone pinged, letting me know I had a message. I hit the button and saw my wife hanging off of some guy on the dance floor whose hands had lifted my wife's dress while they danced inappropriately. My wife Bethany was dancing provocatively with him. My first drink didn't last that long before I was pouring the second. When my phone pinged again, now it showed his hands on her while they were exchanging a passionate kiss. All I could think about was where I could hide the bodies. The next picture showed Bethany encouraging his advances. I was already pouring myself another double when he sent me a video clip of them back at their table. Another man was being very inappropriate with her, while the same guy had his hand under her dress. The next one showed everyone sitting at the table. That's when I saw her friend Jenny behaving inappropriately with another guy at the table. Then I got another, and the camera moved closer to the table and passed close to the back of their booth. Her friend Jenny was clearly heard asking Bethany, "How long are we staying?" I clearly heard Bethany's reply, trying to stifle her voice as she was clearly enjoying herself. "I'm not leaving here tonight until these guys and I have more fun together. It gets me so excited when they do that." Jenny laughed. "Looks like your husband is being served another surprise again." To which Bethany replied, "As long as James keeps giving me money, I really don't care having him sitting at home waiting to clean up after me." The whole table had a good laugh about that. I had to go out, any place other than the house. As of that moment, it ceased to be my home. I drove around in my pickup for a while. I wanted a cigarette, so I stopped by an open supermarket. My mind was spinning, thinking why she was doing this to me. I'm 6 feet 2 inches and 260 pounds tall, I have red hair, and look pretty good. I joined a gym a couple of years ago to build my muscles up and get back in shape. It seems almost a waste of time now. My mind began to work on my problem. I took stock of my life. I created my own company from the ground up, nothing big. Still, it makes me about $2.5 million a year. Taxes, payroll, insurance, and my lawyers eat up more than half of it. But I still make a good living. I enjoy doing things for myself, not hiring someone to do the work for me. Bethany, on the other hand, has to have a driver run her to the hospital if she breaks a fingernail. She whines endlessly if she doesn't have 2 vacations a year. Good grief. What a selfish woman she turned out to be. My company makes the wires and connections from computers to earth movers. It's not glamorous, but every factory around here relies on my company to supply them so they can keep running at a reasonable price, I might add. When I started my company, Bethany was very cost-conscious about everything in our lives as I poured every dime I made back into the business. As my business grew, so did the amount of money we made. She had started complaining, "We need a larger house to entertain your clients when they come over." Then it was, "We need a pool so I can swim to keep looking good for you." And of course, I can't be seen driving such an old car. She had to have a new one every 2 years. Then, I need to have maid service for the house. Then, we have to have a chef. And please, don't get me started about where we had to eat if we went out. The more the business grew, the more she said she needed to maintain her appearance in the community, so she bought more clothes that she wore once or twice. My question is, she owns thousands of dollars of clothing for herself, but why did every purchase she made have to have 4 pairs of shoes to go with it? The next week, I hired a private investigator, and goodness was he good. He sat me down in his office and slid a 3-inch thick folder to me, telling me if I wanted to watch the DVDs, it would be best to have a drink or 4 beforehand. In the folder, there were miles of video and audio files that I put in my safe a couple of weeks later. Bethany and her trainer, Toby, demonstrated many inappropriate activities. Some of the pictures and videos surprised me. I never knew the human body could bend that way, doing some of the positions I saw them doing. Our intimate life went from 4 to 2 times a week, then less frequent activities. I stopped altogether, fearing getting a disease. Then came the headaches that she used to get out of being intimate. She told me she was going to the doctor to find out what was wrong with her. Then I had another 2-inch folder plus audio files to place in my safe. I also found out she was involved with the doctor on a regular basis, so he would make sure that she didn't have any children. I wanted children, but apparently Bethany did not, and had him make sure that didn't happen. I had to make a plan where we would get divorced, but she couldn't ruin me or my company in the divorce. I had to act like nothing happened before I could put my plan in place. I should have won an award playing that I was clueless about what was going on. Then the answer came to me in the supermarket a week later. It seemed that karma was working in my favor. While I was doing my own shopping, there was a dark-haired woman who was totally stunning to me in every way, standing just 3 people ahead of me in the line with a beautiful child sitting in her cart. The checkout person started to get angry with her because her card had been declined and then reported stolen. Then she pushed the button that told their security guards they were needed. They pushed her cart off to the side, then stood on each side of her and began asking questions, trying to act like junior policemen. They told her they called the police and they would be arriving shortly. Her little girl was scared and shaking, clinging to her mother while she cried. They made her sit down on a small bench and wait for the police. The woman pulled out a phone and placed a call. By the time I was at the checkout, she was yelling into the phone, "Terry, where is the child support you're supposed to be paying?" Then she yelled, "What do you mean you're not paying it anymore? The judge said you had to. What do you mean you found a job in Mexico?" Then she screamed into the phone, "She's your child too. Don't you even care about her? The next time I see you, you're going to be in serious trouble." Then she slammed the phone down on the bench as her body began shaking. Everything that was happening was scaring the child terribly. She had no idea what was happening. She just wrapped her arms around her mother's neck, crying. 2 policemen came in, and the store manager pointed at them and said something to them. They began walking over. I had always supported the police and made healthy donations at their gatherings. I happened to recognize one of them. "Hey there, Bill. How's it going?" "James, it's good to see you. I'm here doing something I don't want to do." He turned to the woman and said, "Stand up, please." I also noticed what could only be a CPS woman enter the store and start walking up to them, looking at the child. I looked the checkout lady in the eyes and said, "This isn't going to end well for you." She just gave me a confused look. Then I left my cart right where it was and walked over to the growing group of people. The lady from CPS had already started reaching for the little girl. I told her, "I wouldn't touch her if I were you, miss." I looked at Bill. Why are you giving my housekeeper such a hard time, Bill? He looked at me, then he said, Housekeeper? James, she tried to use a card that has been reported stolen. My hands are tied. Giving me a sad look. Bill, let me explain. She came up here to pay for the first part of supplies we needed for the house. I'd forgotten to give her my card to pay for it, so she tried to use her card that was for her child support. She found out her ex planned to head to Mexico. The guy told her he wasn't paying the support because he would be living there. He must have reported it stolen so she would be arrested and couldn't stop him. Then, I looked at the CPS lady and smiled. I suggest you call your boss before you do anything else. James, is that what happened? He asked. Bill, why would I lie about my housekeeper? I mean, really? Bill looked at her, then at me. I'm satisfied. I will need to collect the card, though. Maybe we can track him with the information that's on it. I looked at the CPS lady. After she told her boss what happened and gave her my information, her face was a touch whiter. Yes, ma'am. I understand. I will definitely let him know. I'll apologize to him. Sorry to have bothered you. She just looked over at me wide-eyed. The look she gave me was priceless. I'm very sorry, sir. Please accept my apology. She said that you'll be donating another $1,000 at the fundraiser. Make it $2,000 and tell Sarah she has a deal. You see, I love kids and families trying their best to survive. I approached my cart. Are you finished? I asked her in the same tone that she had spoken to the lady earlier. No, sir. I'm adding both carts together. Sorry, she said. As we headed for the door, I mentioned the treatment she received to the manager. He looked at the checkout girl, and he didn't look too happy. I hinted that I might find a different place to shop. He kept apologizing and then started walking over to the checkout girl. Nobody deserved to be treated like that. When we got outside, I asked her where her car was. She told me she didn't have one. Well, I guess it all goes in the truck bed. You navigate, I'll drive. In the light, I could see her face better, and I liked what I saw. She looked very attractive. She directed me to a bad part of town. We pulled up in front of a building that should be torn down. It had people with substance abuse problems sitting in front, and one passed out across the entryway. You live here? I asked, staring at the building. I started to get a bad feeling. She nodded. It's all I can afford without a job. I get a small check from welfare for my child, and that's all they'll give us. She looked out the window. She couldn't look at me. I locked up the truck and the tailgate, and then I walked around to the passenger side. Show me, I told her. She led me up to the third floor to a doorway that had been kicked in. I see you've been robbed. No, it's always been that way. It doesn't close because all the superintendent does is take the rent, but he refuses to fix the building, she said as she looked at the floor. Where does your child sleep? I couldn't believe what I was seeing. She led me to a small bedroom at the back. There was a large pile of clothing in the corner. We both sleep on the pile at night. I would have run to the bathroom to throw up, but the bathroom would just make me sick again. Is there anything in here that you want to keep? I asked as I looked around the apartment. She dug into the pile of clothes and pulled out a small book of photos. It was filled with pictures of her daughter as she was growing up. Just this. I picked up her daughter and carried her to the front room. Look around and make sure that's all you want. I heard something behind me. When I turned around, I saw a man standing there. His appearance made a homeless guy look like he was wearing a suit. What do you think you're doing? That lady belongs to me. I had had enough of this place and those who lived here. The sounds the woman heard were like someone moving furniture, then a loud sound of something breaking. She looked around the corner of the kitchenette to find the guy not moving. She saw his head inside the hole it made in the wall when I put it there. That was the super, she said quietly. Looks like it's time to leave, I smiled. With a little bit of anger management, I felt better than I had in weeks. After getting them in the truck, I drove them to an extended stay hotel that businessmen stay at while in town. "Do you have an opening?" I asked as I handed him my card. "Room 207, he replied. "Second floor. Turn right when you get out of the elevator." He gave me my card and a key card, and off we went. As we stepped inside, she saw the large room, and she just froze as her eyes took everything in. "Maggie, go watch TV in that room and close the door. Mommy has to thank the nice man." Maggie ran off and closed the door. "My name is Cheryl," and she began to look uncomfortable. "Cheryl, I'm not that kind of guy." When I realized what she meant, "Thank you for the thought," I laid $500 on the counter. "There's a clothing store across the street. Both you and Maggie need some new clothes." She cut me off. "No matter what you might think, I don't get involved with married men," when she saw my ring. I looked into her eyes and realized I was starting to fall for this woman. Things do change sometimes. Then I walked to the door. "Have a decent meal and enjoy playing with Maggie in the tub. I'll be in touch." Then I stepped through the door, making sure it closed behind me. I had a lot to think about and plans to make. I kept rolling it around in my mind for quite a while. Then a plan began to form in my mind. It was a long shot, but first I needed to get rid of my cheating wife. 2 weeks later, Toby stepped out of his front door and ran into 2 very large men. "Going somewhere?" They smiled, pushing him back inside the apartment. "Why don't we have a seat?" They shoved him down on the couch. "You've been a very bad boy, so now someone wants to talk with you." A couple of minutes later, there was a knock at the door. One of the men opened it and let me in. "Hey, boss," was all he said. I walked in and looked at the loser sitting on the couch. I sat down in the chair across from him. "Hello, Toby. I thought it was time we had a face-to-face. Do you have any idea who I am?" Toby nodded, then got very scared. "Well, I guess you do know." I gave a small chuckle. "I hear that you and my wife have been spending time together. That's hazardous to your health, don't you know that?" He began to shake all over. "Do you want me to tell you what's going to happen now?" "I'm sorry, Mr. Feeney. I had no idea who she was. She never told me who she was until recently. You gotta believe me. I don't want trouble." Then the tears and the begging started. I nodded at one of the men. He proceeded to get his attention to shut him up. "I'll never see her again. I'll move away and never bother you or her again, please." I had to smile a little bit. "Now, why would I want you to do that, Toby?" I asked. "I don't understand. What do you want, Mr. Feeney?" "I'm here to make you an offer, Toby." I smiled. "Huh? What do you mean, an offer, Mr. Feeney?" "I want to hire you for a job," I grinned. "What job is that?" he asked in a small voice. "I want to put $1.5 million into your account for doing this favor for me. Agreed?" "Okay," he replied. "Anything reasonable, please." He looked like he was going to be sick again. I leaned closer. "You heard that the $473 million Powerball jackpot was won yesterday, yes?" I raised an eyebrow. "I heard about it." He tried giving me a sly look. I pulled a ticket out of my jacket pocket. "This is a fake ticket with the winning numbers on it. I want you to convince my wife that it's real and that you won the jackpot. Then you'll talk her into divorcing me and running off with you. If you're successful, I will put $1.5 million into your account, and we will part company. Fair enough?" "But what if I fail to convince her?" he asked. "You don't want to even think about it, right, guys?" Toby looked up at the gentlemen standing on either side of him. He didn't like their expressions. "All right, I'll do it." "You made a good choice, Toby." I stood up. "Don't make me come back here, understand?" "I fully understand, Mr. Feeney." "Let's go, boys. Let Toby here enjoy the rest of his evening." We walked out, leaving Toby to his thoughts. We all climbed into the rented limo, and we drove away. I looked at Clay and Rick. "You played your parts to perfection." I gave them $1,000 each. "Hang loose. I might need to hire you two again before this is all over." We all laughed. "Want me to drop you two off at Clancy's bar?" They both nodded, and then Rick told Clay, "See? I told you those acting classes would pay off." I stayed in touch with Cheryl and Maggie, making sure they had enough to eat and everything they needed. Okay, I played with Maggie every time I visited. A week and a half later, Bethany glided into the house. She was home early for once. Another lady walked in with her. She walked over to me. "Are you James R. Feeney, husband of Bethany Feeney?" "Why, yes, I am," I replied. "May I please see some identification?" I showed her my driver's license, and she handed me a vanilla envelope. "You've been served. Here's your copy of the divorce papers. Good evening." Then she was gone. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. I opened the envelope and saw the divorce papers. "You're asking for nothing? Not even half of my company? What made you so generous, Bethany? My lover has come into more money than you'll make in your lifetime. A week from now, we'll live in the Cayman Islands, and you'll still be sitting here wondering how you weren't good enough for me. You haven't been around here for a month or so anyway. He'll give me anything I want, as well as keep me in the lifestyle that I deserve. So get lost. You never did deserve a woman like me. I've already removed my clothes and everything else I wanted from this place. I just wanted to see your face as you broke down, begging me to come back to you." "Why are you laughing, you jerk?" she said in a loud voice. "Sorry to disappoint." I punched a number into my phone. "Hey, she's leaving now. You can pull around front and start changing the locks. We'll put the security cameras up tomorrow." Then I called another number. "Hello, is this Whiting's maid and nanny service? I need a maid who can start tomorrow, and I also need a nanny who loves to play with children. Thank you very much. See you tomorrow." Then another number. "Hello, put me on speaker, please. Is this the administrator of St. Mary's Hospital? My name is Mr. Feeney. I have some very compromising videos and photos of Dr. Granger behaving inappropriately with my wife. You can talk with my lawyer when he and I are taking legal action tomorrow morning. Have a lovely evening." Bethany tried to say something, but I held up my hand to her. My last call went like this. "Okay, Mark, let it loose. Yes, Facebook first, then the contact list. Thanks again." "What was that all about, fool?" Bethany said sarcastically. "Why are you still laughing?" Her face made her look like she was going to explode. "Just taking care of some long overdue business. I would call you something worse, but I'm being polite." I couldn't keep the smile from my face. A couple of minutes later, Bethany's phone started bursting with calls and texts. "I think that's for you, my dear," I busted out laughing. "Hello, Grandma?" I could hear Grandma yelling from where I was sitting. Bethany's mouth opened up in a big O, and her eyes went wide. "What videos? You heard the audio to it? I'll have to call you back." She disconnected the call and turned to me. "You terrible person." Then her sister came through the door. She lived only a block and a half away. "Well, hello, Cindy. How are you enjoying your evening?" If looks could kill. She walked right up to Bethany. She grabbed her younger sister up by her shirt, then kept slapping her across her face with the other hand. "You foolish woman! I told you not to do it. Now the family, all our friends, and now everybody in the town knows all about it." She kept slapping her till Bethany collapsed on the floor. I went out the front door and saw her entire family's cars pulling up, looking for a place to park. All her friends that lived close by just walked over. I yelled at them all, "Try not to break anything. I'm out of here." I got a hotel room. I knew I wouldn't be getting any sleep at the house. I picked up a 12-pack of beer and a submarine sandwich, then settled in to watch the news. The camera crews showed the chaos at my house. It looked like they called in every cop in town, plus 3 ambulances to help with the wounded. The next afternoon, when I checked out, I drove over to the extended stay hotel. I went to Cheryl's room and knocked on the door. Cheryl looked beautiful, and so did Maggie. I gave Cheryl my copy of the divorce papers to read as I played with Maggie for a bit. When I saw her look up with tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, I picked up Maggie and walked over next to her. How about we go out to eat? What do my two beautiful ladies say about that? Cheryl kissed me on the lips as Maggie kissed my cheek. Then she asked, "How about Chuck E. Cheese?" We were all laughing as we walked out the door. We finally agreed to go to an Italian restaurant so Maggie could get her pizza. In the middle of the restaurant, I whispered into Maggie's ear. She smiled really big and nodded her head. Cheryl raised an eyebrow, wondering what was going on. Then I got down on my knee. "My divorce became final yesterday, providing that my house is still standing and has no structural damage. Would you and Maggie make me the happiest man alive and marry me?" Cheryl couldn't respond as her face was covered in tears, and her hands were trying to hide her face. So Maggie walked over to her mother and whispered in a loud voice, "Don't make me kick you in the shins, Mother. Just tell him yes. I told him he could." Cheryl recovered and screamed, "Yes!" She launched herself at me, taking both of us to the floor, hugging and kissing me. Maggie thought it looked like fun, so she hopped on both of us as well. Everyone in the place applauded and congratulated the three of us. 5 days later, we were at St. Peter's Church when we realized that Cheryl had no family and my parents died 5 years ago. We didn't have anyone to give Cheryl away. Then, I heard a familiar voice behind me. There stood Bethany's parents. Her father said, "If you wish, I would be honored to stand in that place." He smiled sadly. "Through all that has happened, we still consider you family, James, and your lovely wife as well." I looked at Cheryl, who smiled and nodded. I turned back to them and pulled them into a three-way bear hug. "Thank you, Mom and Dad. It would mean so much to us if you would." Then I took my place at the altar. Maggie carried the rings. She wore a beautiful white dress, and someone had pinned angel wings on her. Then came my bride, with her arm on Paul's. He was crying and didn't care who saw it. Cheryl seemed to float on air as she approached me and took her place beside me. When the priest presented us to everyone as man and wife, Maggie could be heard proclaiming, "I finally got me a daddy." I called Jenny's husband and told him to check out Bethany's Facebook page. Bethany never made it to the Cayman Islands, but she did make it as far as her parents' basement. Cheryl, me, and Maggie can hardly wait for our son to be born. We still have 2 months to wait. 3 years had passed since that chaotic night when Bethany's world came crashing down around her. I stood on the deck of our new house, watching Maggie chase her little brother Tommy around the backyard while Cheryl tended to her garden. The sound of their laughter filled the air, and I couldn't help but smile at how perfectly everything had fallen into place. The business had grown even more successful. Turns out, when you're not constantly worried about someone bleeding you dry, you can focus on what really matters. We'd expanded into 3 more states, and I'd been able to hire Tim as my operations manager. He'd been the one to send those pictures that night after all. Seemed only fair he should benefit from the outcome. Maggie had adapted to having a little brother better than anyone expected. She took her role as big sister seriously, always making sure Tommy was safe and included in everything. When people asked her about her family, she'd proudly announce, "I got the best daddy in the world, and he picked the best mommy too." Cheryl had blossomed in ways I never imagined. The scared, desperate woman I'd met in that grocery store had transformed into a confident, radiant wife and mother. She'd started taking business classes at the community college and had become my unofficial advisor on several company decisions. Her insights were often better than those of my paid consultants. As for Bethany, well, karma had indeed finished its work. The fake lottery ticket plan had worked perfectly, but Toby had gotten greedy. When he realized the ticket was fake after they'd already run off together, he'd disappeared in the middle of the night, taking what little money Bethany had left. She'd ended up stranded in a cheap motel in Florida, having to call her parents to wire her bus fare home. The videos and evidence I'd collected had made their rounds through social media and the local community. Dr. Granger had lost his medical license, and the hospital had settled out of court for a substantial sum that I'd donated to the local children's charity. Bethany's reputation was in ruins, and she'd been living in her parents' basement ever since, working part-time at a discount store. Her parents still came by occasionally. Paul and Martha had become like real grandparents to Maggie and Tommy. They'd apologized countless times for their daughter's behavior, but I'd always told them the same thing. You can't control what your adult children do. You can only love them and hope they learn. Clay and Rick had indeed gotten more work from me. They'd helped with a few other business situations where a little theatrical persuasion was needed. Nothing illegal, mind you, just some creative problem-solving. Rick had been right about those acting classes paying off. Tim knocked on the sliding door behind me. "Hey, James, sorry to bother you at home, but we just got that contract from the automotive plant in Ohio. The big one." I turned around and grinned. "The Miller account?" They finally said yes. "Signed and sealed. Looks like we'll need to expand the production facility again." Cheryl looked up from her garden and smiled. "Does this mean we can finally take that family vacation to Disney World?" Maggie stopped chasing Tommy and ran over. "Did someone say Disney World?" Tommy, still learning to walk properly, toddled over as fast as his little legs could carry him. "Disney, Disney." I scooped them both up in my arms. "I think that can be arranged." As the sun began to set, I thought about how different my life had become. 3 years ago, I'd been sitting in my living room, drinking cognac and plotting revenge. Now I was surrounded by genuine love, laughter, and the kind of happiness I'd never known was possible. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you turns out to be the best thing that could have happened. Bethany's betrayal had freed me to find my real family, the people who actually deserved my love and loyalty. That evening, after we'd put the kids to bed, Cheryl and I sat on the deck sharing a bottle of wine. "Do you ever regret how everything happened?" she asked, resting her head on my shoulder. I thought about it for a moment. I regret that I wasted 9 years with the wrong person, but if I hadn't, I never would have found you and Maggie. So no, I don't regret it. Everything happened exactly the way it was supposed to. She lifted her head and looked at me with those beautiful eyes that had captivated me from the first moment I saw her in that grocery store. "I love you, James Feeney." "I love you too, Mrs. Feeney. All 3 of you." From inside the house, we could hear Maggie reading a bedtime story to Tommy, her voice carrying through the baby monitor. She was reading him the same book of photos her mother had saved from their old life, telling him about all the adventures they'd had before they found their forever daddy. Life had a funny way of working out. Sometimes you think you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it turns out you're actually waiting for the right shoes to find their way to your door. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.